My name is TJ Hanscom, and I'm an illustration major at University of Central Missouri. When I first got here, I liked to draw, but I didn't necessarily have a style. So I just kind of like experimented around a lot, found what I like to do, and found subject material that I enjoyed making and drawing and stuff like that. And then I just kind of made it into a style and just draw it a whole bunch and then set it up as like a cohesive body of work. When it first started emerging versus like when I actually started like making it in my style, I have to mention the man, the Buttman. He's like the guy. So I remember the first time my style sort of emerged is a print project that I was doing for printmaking class, and I decided to make this little book about sewers, and I put a bunch of like little weird people and like creatures and stuff in the sewers, and that's kind of when I started making all of these like weird guys and creatures and stuff. And then I made a character. His name is Buttman. I love him. But it just sort of bloomed from there. I just make characters all the time, and just sort of, you know, over time I got more and more comfortable making more and more characters, and then I started focusing on making the environments as interesting as the characters. I feel like the environment is a character as well, and not just like a background. If I were to give some advice on someone to help find their style, it would be to look at the things that you like to draw. What do you like to do? You know, whether it be weird characters or, you know, like landscapes or cars or like, you know, animals or whatever. Just look at what you specifically like to draw. And then what I also found really interesting was injecting like the characters that I like to draw into real life settings. So in a way, it's not as tedious sort of like creating work. I can put them in a world that is familiar to us, and sort of like almost bring them to life. So in making a style, just stick with what you like to do and just kind of like go from there. I guess if I had any advice for anyone who's trying to pick up illustration or any art style for that matter, it is hard, but you know, you can do it, and no matter how tough it may be or how sort of like lost you might feel, just keep at it and you'll come out of that sort of like haze. And if you do it enough, then it'll feel natural, and then you'll be able to just do it like all the time. If you have an idea for something, stick with it. Don't be afraid to try out new techniques. It's always good to experiment. Like for instance, when I first started, I basically created my illustrations in one way, with Micron pen, scanning it in and then coloring it in. But it's good to branch out. It's good to like make comics and do more traditional stuff. Like I also found out that I like doing ink washes, and I also like using like gouache paintings, and I feel like it looks really nice in my illustrative style. But I wouldn't have found that out if I hadn't experimented at all. And even with like digital work, like it's important to sort of like look at like, you know, new styles, like if you want to use a gradient for something, or if you want to use like textures for something, or if you want to like impose like, you know, just like more traditional work in there. Like if you make textures with like traditional stuff and then impose it in afterwards, it's just all about like experimenting, because honestly you could find something that's like really, really cool that you wouldn't have ever like, you know, found otherwise. This might be like a universal sort of thing that most creators feel, but it feels like sometimes you're not gonna make it, and it feels like, you know, what's the point of me doing this? Why am I doing it? And that's something that everyone has to like go through. And I certainly did. But it all boils down to just kind of like pushing yourself to make that next thing, as well as sort of keeping a positive outlook that yes, you can do it.
Reporting for Lowdown, I'm Blake Proctor.